Welcome back to another episode of Coffee and Coin. I have Kelly B on the pod. Welcome, Kelly.
Thanks, Allegra. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I am really looking forward to this conversation because I feel like you are the ultimate Factora woman.
Yeah, I feel like I preach it to like all my friends and it's just like absolutely changed my life. So I'm excited to be here talking to you again.
So, this episode is kind of a new type of episode we're trying out. We're calling it the Net Worth Diaries. And we really just want to showcase women in our community who are so keen on sharing their money stories, digging into their personal financial changes, both the good and the bad, and just really showing other women what it looks like when you prioritize your money and put it at the forefront of your life. And I feel like you're the ultimate Factora woman because you really did that. Like you did every element of the well circle and it feels like you're still doing it. Like I know how up to date you keep your net worth and you still have your mantras hanging in your office and you did all the things and you're still doing them, and I think that's why you've experienced so much success. I mean, that's not the only reason. You've put a lot of change into place, but it just I went to a high school that people would say, oh, you're like the ultimate Foxtrot girl. That was like such a great compliment when someone would tell us we are such a Foxtrot girl. We're like, yeah, we know. We're like the ultimate Foxtrot girl. And that is you to me when it comes to a Factora woman. So,
Oh,
anyways,
that's such a compliment. And yeah, we were talking about that before, but it's like I love the spreadsheets. I love the mantras. Like I still have them up. And I know we'll get into it, but it's been really cool. It's been I think 3 years, over 3 years since I took the Wall Circle, and it's super fun to see that like all that stuff is still like the foundation for me, and I've just really like grown off of it. And now I'm actually gonna later I'll let you know of one of my new goals that I actually haven't said out loud to anyone. So yeah, I'm super excited to be here and just catch up with you again.
yay, I can't wait to dig into it. Well, okay, so you took your well circle in spring of 2020. We're recording this episode in summer of 2023. So, yeah, it's basically 3 years and change. And before we dig into the numbers and the changes you've made, just share a little bit about you. Where do you live? What do you do?
Yeah, so I live in Charlotte, North Carolina. I moved here just over 3 years ago, like about when I think right after I took the Well Circle, my husband and I moved to Charlotte. I was living in Austin before in Texas, which is how I found Factora originally. I have been a product manager for about 8 years. I joined a real estate tech company summer of last year. And so I'm currently a principal product manager there.
I love it. Um, Also, we share a love of football.
Oh yes, yes. And I'm a football wife, so that takes up a lot of my time, but it's been awesome.
Okay, so talk to me a little bit about what kind of money you were making at the start of your well circle and what kind of money you're making now.
Yeah, so this was fun to like dig back through the numbers. So at the start of the wealth circle, I was making it. I just checked it. It was 106K base, and I had about a just under 25K bonus. It was performance based, so total comp came to about $130,000 a year.
What about now?
Yeah, and so now I'm super excited. We gave some income updates last week in Slack, and at the end of the last week, I got a slight raise, and so those numbers are outdated. So I'm actually now making $236,000. That's my base salary, and then I have a little bit of equity in the company as well.
Okay, so more than $100,000 more 3 years later. And she just said she shared in Slack some of those updates just for new listeners who might not know. Factora has a Slack community that all women who take the Well Circle get access to and they get continued access to. So that, in my opinion, is one of the best parts of Factora is this ongoing wealthy women's community, because as long as we are alive, we have the opportunity to build wealth. And so it's really motivating when you see other women doing it. It keeps you wanting to do more of it as well. Because I always like to say that wealth building is not a zero sum game. Like me having a high net worth does not take away from you having the opportunity to have a high net worth. We can all do it together in tandem. And I just would love for you to share a little bit more about how the community has been a part of your salary and income increasing journey, because that's a big change over 100K.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I joined the Wealth Circle, again, I was making six figures. I felt like I was making a lot of money, and I was.
Because
But
how old were you when you took the Wealth Circle?
I'm 30 now, so I would have been 27.
Yeah, so that is a lot. I wasn't making $130,000 at 27 for sure.
Yeah. So again, and I was super happy about that. But at that time, I had kind of felt like, okay, I've made it. Like I'm making six figures. That's it. And it wasn't until joining the Well Circle and seeing the Slack community, the Factora Slack community, seeing women who were my age, some of them younger than me, some of them only a couple years older than me, posting these like 200K plus salaries, and that made me realize that it's possible, and it's not possible when I'm 50. It's possible in the next couple years. And so that really sparked my journey for just getting more information around salary transparency, doing some research, understanding really my worth for my salary. And then ultimately, like it led me to switching jobs because I felt like I had kind of tapped out at the company that I was at. Tapped out is not the right word, but just kind of like I got to the top, I felt like, in terms of earning potential. And so I switched jobs. I actually switched jobs twice since I took the Well Circle. But what that really enabled me to do was like increase my salary. And so again, now I've been at this company for just over a year. I feel like I'm very well paid very fairly, and they have an awesome like review cycle. And that was something that was very important to me when I was looking at my next job, is just like making sure that I could be somewhere that I would want to be for a long time because I was paid fairly.
Okay, so this is a perfect setup for talking about personal values and making sure you live a life in conjunction with those. But I just also want to say that I think when women are starting the Well Circle, we have this money evaluation because it's really important to figure out where you are now and like just have this moment in time of what is your current salary, what is your current net worth, kind of all your numbers, and then not just the quantitative, but the qualitative. We ask questions like, do you feel like you are fairly compensated for what you do and earning as much as you could be for that role and your skill set? And it is so frustrating to me how many people answer no and no to both those questions. So just to hear you say you feel very fairly compensated is already so it just brings me so much joy, because like if we're going to work really hard, then I want women to feel like they are fairly compensated, because we're exchanging our time and skills for money. Like this is active income. Another thing we talk a lot about in Factora is passive versus active income. And so I don't want people to just stop with the, okay, well, I make over six figures, so that's good enough. It's like, well, but how good could it be, and does it feel like it fits your values? So then let's do talk about values. What are yours?
Yeah. So another one of such a exciting activity that we did in the Wealth Circle was defining kind of our personal financial values. And I told you before the podcast, I still have mine posted up on my pin board right behind my desk, so I see them every day. Mine are, I have five. So wealth, adventure, health, love, and balance. And again, wealth being the first one, it's very important to me. Like that's
No surprise there.
decisions that I've made. Adventure, I love to travel, so that's something that I'm able to spend money on without regret. And then health, that's something that I actually wanted to call out because I was just doing a budget, and I found that I spend almost between my husband and I should say, we spend almost $1,000 a month on health related items. So that's our gym membership, our vitamin subscription. I get a massage monthly, like physical therapy, things like that. And I know that for some people that would really stress them out. But, and I didn't always used to spend this much, but what I got clarity in is like, this is something that's important to me. I want to live a long, healthy life. And so I'm going to invest in that now. And so again, just making financial decisions based on my value has brought me a lot of, or I should say, it's reduced a lot of stress for me to be okay spending that on the things that are important to me.
Yeah, I think a lot of times women feel guilt or shame for some of their spending choices, and I hate that because we're not going to we're not going to be coming from a good place in our financial behaviors if we already feel bad, right? So we want our mindset to be good, and we want to be spending in alignment with our values, but most people don't know their values. So this is a very squishy woo-woo thing that we do at the beginning of the Well Circle, but I argue women get so much continued value from it because instead of having to be really strict on a budget, they can just be like, oh, what are my 3 to 5 values? Yes, this matters. And to your point, spending $1,000 a month on health, but you want to use that for longevity in your life, it's like, that's a low cost to me. 12 grand a year when you alone, and we're not even talking about your partner, is making 236,000. I'm like, all day, all day.
Right. And even just like, it's like I used to spend like a couple $100 at the month, like at the bars. And it's like, this was not aligned with my values. And so thinking about like, just like that shift and how it, like, there was a time when I was like, would spend money on things that didn't align, again, before I knew my values. Whereas now I can really like spend the money guilt free. And I just feel better also.
Totally. I would also say, I think a lot of people think they know their values, just like I think a lot of people think they know their goals. But if you do not have them written down and like clarified, I'd argue you don't really know because you might have a value that changes. And if you aren't looking on the wall at a sticky note that says it, you wouldn't even know that it's changed, right? Like it has to be there and be updated. Just like our life, like the only constant in life is change. So we really need to be aware and have things written down. I feel like I'm so worried that writing things down is going to be a lost art now that we all live these digital lives. Like no one's even going to write sticky notes, but
Right.
hopefully that's years to come. So let's talk a little bit about investing because I know you're a really big investor. What is your favorite asset class that you use to build wealth and why?
Yeah. My favorite asset class is the paper asset class. Um, and mainly just because it's so easy to start and very easy to automate. I started investing in paper. So I actually did, that was the only thing I did, I think, before the Well Circle is I started like an automatic investment about $50 a month into an investment account right when I graduated college about 8 years ago. And at the time, I think I was putting around $50 a month. So it's all I could afford. But it was still better than nothing, right? I look back, I'm very proud of the money that grew from those 8 years. And then now, between my husband and I, we're investing about $8,000 a month into the stock market.
That's amazing. So, just for listeners who might not know the phrase paper assets, what we're really talking about is the stock market. And so many women come into the Well Circle thinking that the stock market is overwhelming and terrible. And then they leave being like, oh, this is the set it and forget it approach. We love this one. It's way harder to figure out real estate deals and get into the business asset class. And that's why it's used for most of our retirement accounts. You probably are in paper assets anyways if you have any sort of employee or employer sponsored retirement account. So I argue it's the best place to start because you're either doing it or you've heard of it, right? We all know about the stock market. We just might not know how to use it for us. So holy shit, $8,000 a month into the stock market. That's 64 grand a year. In 2 years, that's over 100 grand. And then obviously that's before compound returns. So this is why I want women thinking about investing and having that investor mindset switched on because you can spend $1,000 on health like a no-brainer as long as you're also getting $8,000 a month into the market. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about your savings and investing rate. And just for people who might not know, we focus a lot on this number in the Wealth Circle too. It's important to know your net worth because that is a indicator of your wealth because it's your assets minus your liabilities. So it's what you actually have, what you have ownership of. And then in order to get more ownership of assets, you want to have a high investing rate. So she's putting $8,000 a month into just one place. I don't even know what else you're doing. We'll get into it. But yeah, what's your saving and investing rate?
Yeah. So I will say the majority of our investments are going into the stock market. So that is the majority. We do put a bit away into our just cash savings. So we have a full emergency fund, which is good, but we're um, looking to buy maybe a car and potentially an investment property at some point in the next couple months. And so we have we're trying to put more in cash. So right now, uh, our investment rate is around 45%. It really fluctuates anywhere between 30% and 50%, like depending on the month. Some months we're traveling more. The last couple months, we've been able to put a little bit more away, which has been really exciting. But yeah,
Okay, and that's household.
household.
30
Yeah.
to 50%. Okay. I'm just going to pause there because that's a crazy awesome number. They put half of their income away for their future goals, right? So whether that's the near-term stuff that she just mentioned, like a real estate investment in a few months, that's obviously going to be saved in cash because we don't want the volatility of it being invested elsewhere, or the tax implications that might mean when you need to draw it. And then also so much going into the stock market. I just know that so many people think, oh, I could never save and invest half my income. And yet I see Factora women doing it all the time. So let's get into the big numbers. What about net worth when you started the Wealth Circle and net worth now?
Yeah. So when I started when I started the Wealth Circle, my net worth was $63,000. I actually pulled up my net worth spreadsheet just to verify that. And my net worth as of this morning in the app that I use is $614,000.
Hell yes. It's like a 10x. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Um, Also, what app do you use to track your net worth?
So it's called Empower now. It used to be called Personal
Yeah.
Capital. That's the one that I love. I know there's a million that always get recommended, but I've had that one for 3 years since I started the Wealth Circle. So I like to see the progress.
Yeah, no, it's really nice to stick with one, even if you trade to another, because then you can have all that history.
hmm Yeah, it's awesome.
Cool. So let's talk a little bit about how you were able to increase your net worth so significantly, because people might be listening and like think, holy shit, you went from 60,000 net worth to over 600,000. That's huge. I want that. But also, how the F did you do that?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I do want to just like caveat that I was very fortunate. My parents paid for the majority of my expenses throughout college. I had a very small student loan that I was able to pay off about 2 years after graduating. And then after that, I was investing into the account. So that's kind of where my net worth pre Wealth Circle came into play. But my parents have not paid for anything since my last year of college. I did 4.5 years, and that last 6 months, they're like, you're on your own. So since then, since taking the Wealth Circle, my husband and I bought our house in August of 2020. So that was when the interest rates were very, very low, and the market in Charlotte was still hot, but we were able to get what I think was like a fairly affordable house in an up and coming neighborhood. Um, our strategy, as I mentioned, is very heavily paper. So in the stock market, my husband and I both max out all of our tax advantage accounts. So maxing out our 401k, our HSA, and then now we're doing the backdoor Roth, but doing the Roth IRA as well. Another thing that's helped us is just tracking it. So like I mentioned, I've been tracking my net worth for 3.5 years, and it's like a game. It's like I want it to keep increasing. So I'm going to make decisions that help to see it continue to increase. And the other thing, Allegra, I know you talk about this a bit, and so I wanted to mention it as well. Having a partner. So my husband and I do have combined finances. We do both work. I also want to clarify, like he had, I think, less than 20K net worth when we combined in 2020. So it wasn't like I just married him and then had this big net worth. Like we've really built the vast majority of our net worth together. But obviously having two incomes, having a partner in making these decisions has really helped kind of expedite our journey.
Yeah, I think a lot of people ask us, well, is the woman who joins the Wealth Circle, is she single or does she have household finances? Because obviously, just like two heads are better than one on a problem, two incomes are better than one for a net worth journey. It's true, right? Because there's only so much time you can go out and work. So at your $236,000 salary, you might be approaching the top. It's hard to double that. But then if you have another person there who could be making something not even of the equivalent, it's a lot more money to work with. But it's 50-50. It's literally 50% of women who join are doing it on their own and 50% are doing it as a household. And so obviously all of our spreadsheets you can do individual or household. But that's helpful to note. So then what is the biggest financial goal you're working towards?
Yeah, so this is a goal that I set when I joined the Wealth Circle 3+ years ago. It's to become a millionaire by the time I'm 35. And I'm currently 30. I'm 6/10 of the way there, 60% of the way there. And I am fully confident that we're going to be able to do that and probably do that before I turn 35.
For sure. You're so motivated. I don't think you need 5 more years if you're 6/10 of the way there. Okay. Well, since you are so motivated to build net worth, what about a lifetime net worth goal? Do you have that?
Yeah, so I don't know that I did. And I was like looking at it in preparation for this podcast. I am saying between 10 and 20 million. And even as I say that, I'm like, it could probably be more. That's just the way my mind works. But that I do feel like that number allows us to live very, very comfortably and to like leave a legacy for our future children, our grandchildren. And hopefully not get too consumed in the keeping up with the Joneses. So that's the number that I have that I came up with a couple of days ago.
I that's another thing we ask people in the money evaluation, that I don't know if you've looked back at yours. I'd be interested. I'm sure you're someone who put this amount then. But we ask people how much net worth do they think they can achieve in their lifetime, and if that number, why? And it's so interesting. A lot of people, you can tell they have a growth mindset because they're like, I just believe in myself, or like, why not? Like just because I've got a lifetime to live, so I can do that. And you're definitely that type, which I love. Okay, so what are you gonna do to achieve this? Like, what's the plan?
Yeah. So, and I love the saying, what is it? Like everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. So, this is the plan that we have as of now. We'll see what happens in reality. But what my husband and I have talked about is we're both quite happy with our current jobs. And again, with working, I would say like in the corporate world. And so we do plan to work in these jobs, say for the next about 10 or so years. We want to continue to max out our tax advantage accounts, investing heavily in the paper asset. As I mentioned earlier, we are looking to make another real estate investment. So right now we just have our primary residence. I'm super keen on trying to find an investment property. I have gone in circles, to be candid, about figuring out what the next right opportunity is. And so we put that a little bit on pause, but we're really just like, I do imagine in the next 10 years that will absolutely happen. And so it's really just kind of continuing what we have been doing. I wrote this down as I was preparing for the podcast, and I haven't said it out loud, and so I'm a little scared to say it, but I'll just say it for the sake of manifesting. So when I think about kind of what happens after this next 10 years, I think about being able to leave the corporate world and being able to spend more time with our future kids and be able to spend more time with our families and things like that, and just like take opportunities, take more risks. And so my newly minted goal is that I'd like to hit $4 million in net worth by the time we're 40, so that we can take the time off and just have a little bit more flexibility.
You heard it here first, folks. Went from a million by 35 to 4 million by 40. And I love that. I love big goals because I feel like it's the whole shoot for the moon, fall upon the stars, like let's say you end at 40 with 2.8 million. We're not going to be upset about that. We're going to be glad that we've been building wealth.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and I'm like, people are probably like doing the math, like, how's that going to work? And again, I think well, on one hand, I'm like, I did some math, and like, I think that's the value of compound interest, which I'm just like, it's the whatever eighth wonder of the world.
Yes.
But yeah, even if we don't hit it, I think we'll hopefully get close. And will just really set us up for more flexibility as we get into the second half of our lives.
I don't know if this is true for you, but I think something that has started to feel true for me is that when you learn all this stuff and put things into motion at first, it's so freaking exciting. And then you're kind of like, check, check, check. I did it all. Now I kind of just have to keep doing it and wait. But compound interest is going to help get me there. Being creative and getting other investments is my opportunity to get there faster. But it really is such a transition from how's this all going to work together and like my financial life be secure and good in the future, nebulous, to like, oh, I know I'm fucking good. How much better can I be?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think part of the, we absolutely want to invest in real estate, but part of the reason that I was so interested in it and still am so interested in real estate is like, I need a new challenge. Like paper is
Mm-hmm.
awesome and I love it. And I mentioned at the beginning, like it's so easy to get started. It's so easy to automate, but I don't really think about it that much anymore, which is a great thing. But I'm looking for my next like challenge just to learn and like, and just see how can we expedite the growth. Like, how can we get to 4 million by 40?
Totally, totally. Okay, so I guess can we dig into some of those changes that you've made?
Yeah, let's do it.
I mean, I
Okay.
know that tracking net worth is a big one for you. So like talk to me about that and like just how important is it and how's it been a game changer?
Yeah, for sure. So before taking the Well Circle, I think I had probably created, I don't know, 10 different, no, probably more than that, 20 different budgeting spreadsheets and used different tried to use budgeting apps and failed. But it wasn't until taking the Well Circle and thinking it like kind of shifting my mindset from focusing on budgeting to now focusing on tracking my net worth, where it became so much easier to, and just like made me more motivated to track my net worth, to continuously check in on it. And by kind of association, I'm looking at my budgets, but instead of having it be like a hard and fast number and it's like, oh, you go $1 over budget. So now that's out the window for the month. I'm way more focused on, okay, this is what we're doing like here, like, and everything is automated, right? So it's like, I know that my net worth is going to continue to increase. And so therefore, whatever money is left over, then that's what we can spend.
Yeah, I think that this is such a flip for women who take the Well Circle because it's really easy to get defeated or just feel flustered if you set a budget and don't stick to it. That's why I say budgeting sucks. It's like diets. Like you can't be on a diet for the rest of your life. Like that's just it's not feasible. You're going to travel and the diet's broken, or you're going to want to live and the diet's broken. It's just too restrictive. So I think that that flip of less focus on budget, more focus on the overall wealth indicator of your net worth is so important. Because if you know you're contributing $8,000 a month over here, you don't have to freak out about going $600 over this budget situation. You can just course correct because you're being proactive. That's the difference. I think before people take the Well Circle, they're like, whatever I have left over, I'll save or invest. And when we just flip that to we pay ourselves first, and then what's left we can spend on our things and use our values as a filter, it just takes the overwhelm and like the frustration out of spending money, I have found.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that you like gave the comparison between like the kind of health journey, because health again is one of my core values, and I see so many parallels in wealth building to like health wellness. So it's like so interesting you say that. It's like if I drink my like I hit my water goal and I hit my protein goal, then everything else is just going to happen organically versus trying to be so constrictive of like what I can eat in a day. And yeah, so there's like so many parallels. I
Oh,
find it.
I love that. I've
Yeah.
never thought about it like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I I I'm not as big into health. Like I don't know as much. I really my world is money. But I do think about one of my good friends. Oh, you know her, Claire Siegel.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Didn't you meet her through the Factora community and work for her?
Yeah, I did. I did. Yeah. I did some partnership
Amazing.
with Claire a couple
I
years
love this community. I love it. Well, she always talks about how, because she is in the health space, she's like, if people aren't getting proper sleep or even drinking enough water, there's no way they can go beyond that to the other things. Like, so many people forget to meet the basics. And I think about the same thing with money. Like, that foundation that we set in Factora, that foundation that you've set, like, it's set. You know what I mean? Like, now you're just tweaking at the investment component of the pyramid until we, get up to the top of financial freedom. Like, from here on out, it's just kind of how much more can we do on the basics that we've set as the foundation. So I love the comparison to health, like you just said. Okay, let's talk a little bit about leveraging debt, because I know that you started a craze in the Factora Slack community about removing mortgage PMI. So can you explain a little bit about your primary residence journey, share any costs? I know your equity value has gone up and that's been real helpful in your net worth, and then how you did that and why everyone else is following suit.
Yeah, so I took the Well Circle in February of 2020. I didn't have a ton of cash saved, neither did my husband. We had like some investments, and I was like, I want to buy a house. And this is right kind of as we were moving to Charlotte. And so very quickly that like sparked I got to do some research on, and it was amazing timing being in the Well Circle to better understand just like what could we afford and what were our options being a first time home buyer. And so what we were able to do, it because I knew that the interest rates were good and that it was kind of this like never seen before, might never see again type of interest rate. And so what we did is we found out that we could put 3% down, and we created a budget that was like very conservative. So like the home price, all-in mortgage, including like taxes, insurance, and our PMI, was going to be way less than 50% of our take home. And so we put 3% down. That was $11,000, which is just crazy to say, like that we bought a house for $11,000. There was about $4,000 in closing costs. But a big piece of that was that we had this PMI private mortgage insurance payment that we had to make. Our payment was about $150 a month on top of the mortgage. But again, we ran the numbers. We knew it made sense. And so you have to pay PMI until you have 20% equity in your home. But because of the way that the real estate market has been these past couple of years, what was that? About a year ago, I applied to get my PMI removed because I thought that our home value had increased enough so that we had 20% equity. And again, just based on some comps and things like that. So I went through that process. So we were able to get our PMI removed within 2 years, which was just like, I don't know, there was like my parents' generation who was saying like, oh, you have to put 20% down or else you have to pay PMI, as if PMI is the worst thing in the world. But we paid $150 for 24 months to now have our mortgage payment go down. And we were able to lock in that 2.875 interest rate, which I know now is kind of unheard of. So that was just like really exciting. Our house appraised for $150,000 more than when we bought it only 2 years later. So, I mean, I would say we're lucky, but also like I like to think there's a little bit of like intentionality there. We had a plan.
Yeah, because you did the research and you did this work and you made a budget and you figured out that you could buy for way less than the 20% down that a lot of people assume is required, which we talk a lot about in the Well Circle, that like stop following assumptive financial advice online, because personal finance is just that, personal. I really wish that like someone put a penny in my bank account every time I said that, because I'm so fucking annoying. But I can't not. There's no other way to say that comment other than it is
Right.
personal. You and I make very different incomes. Your husband and my husband make very different incomes. I have a kid already. You don't. Like you
Right.
live in Charlotte. I live in Austin. And too many people just want this perfect recipe to follow. And I think that it's really unfortunate that online they have all these rules of thumb. I'm like, stop listening to the rules of thumb, because
Right.
we don't all have the same size thumbs. Like it's no good. Okay. Did you share how much you bought the house for? What was the total you bought the house
Oh, no,
for?
sorry. Yeah. So we bought the house for $360,000 with 3% down at that 2.875 interest rate in August of 2020. We got the PMI removed in, I think, October of 2022. And then now our monthly payment is, and I'm sorry because I know some people will be very envious of this, but our monthly payment is $1,850 for a 4-bedroom, three bathroom house. That's like pretty close to downtown Charlotte.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Okay, just for people who don't know about private mortgage insurance, it's something that came out of the 2008 financial crisis, that if you don't put that 20% down, or you can't, you get basically an additional like tax on you to make sure you're secure. It's so bullshit, because why should we charge people more when they need to get started with less? But it's the American financial system, and we know it's a little backwards at times. So it's just amazing that in order to get that removed, you need to have 20% equity, and you only had 3% equity at first because that's what you put down. And
Mhm.
then within 2 years. And did you make any big changes to your house before you got it appraised?
No, we hardly any. We painted it before we moved in, and then I put peel and stick tile in our bathroom. So real, real savvy DIY there. But no, like no major changes at all.
Got it. It's amazing. And then you appraised for $150,000 more. So that's definitely a big contributor to your net worth value.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else with your house, or just leveraging debt?
Yeah, the only other thing that I wanted to mention is I think like I am so intrigued by this concept of like you always talk about debt with a plan, and so ways that you can leverage debt that are um, that
Strategic.
yeah, strategic, exactly. And so the other thing that we did is that we ended up taking out a HELOC. So a HELOC is a home equity line of credit, and it's just a line of credit, which means like we it's just a line of credit and you have to like actively make a draw against that line. And so we knew that we had the equity in our home because of that updated appraisal. And so we applied for a HELOC, and we now have basically $150,000 HELOC that we have not yet touched. But we have that. It really is like another almost like kind of emergency fund. We might end up like using some of that money to make some updates on the house, but it was like low risk. Like there's no risk in having it besides like I guess a credit check, but it's just like it's there in case anything happens. The interest rates are tied to prime, so they're variable. So again, it wasn't like we needed to time the market or anything. We could just kind of apply for it and then we'll draw from it when it makes if and when it makes sense.
Okay, I'm over here nodding furiously. So for audio listeners, and like who really does watch this visually, although we do have a YouTube channel, listeners, you could see my cute American beret today, which is what I call headbands. Um, yes. So this is just really cool, because when women understand wealth building and leveraging debt with a plan and just have more assets, there is a lot more access to financial vehicles that can help them build additional wealth. And so if you don't think through how you could buy a house for less, because maybe that's what you need in order to get a house, and you're stuck in that, thinking that you need 20%, which isn't true, then it's hard to even get to Kelly's position, where she bought at a great time early in her journey, and then was able to lock in these low mortgage rates, and then able to appraise to get her PMI removed, and then access a line of credit that she doesn't have to draw on, but she can use if and when anything goes wrong. Like, this is why I want women to know and have access to these things. And you just can't unless you have the assets to get to these financial vehicles. There's something you can do with brokerage accounts too. You can access lines of credit there. And I know a lot of women in our community do. So thanks for sharing about that. And interested to hear if and when you use that line of credit, and for what.
Yeah, and I guess just one more thing I want to give like a little bit of again a plug to the Well Circle and the Slack channel, because although I started the craze for PMI removal, and then we got a lot of women being like, "How do I do this? I want to do this," and I was able to just share what we did. HELOC was something that I don't know if it was Pam. I think someone had done it before, obviously, but like I had seen people applying for HELOCs. Maybe I think Renee did it, and then Pam did it, and I had like seen that in the Slack channel and was like, I want to do this. And I will say like it can be kind of intimidating to like have never seen, like, been able to talk to anyone who's done something like that before. But like getting that information, hearing firsthand from Factora women has just been so helpful to be like, okay, it's pretty simple and it's pretty low risk. And so I'm just going to do it.
I love that. We were talking before this call about the idea of possibility drops. And I really think that that is the most beneficial part of having a money community, because when someone does something with their money that you haven't heard of, one, now you know it's a possibility for you. And two, it feels like it's proven because it's a real tangible person that you've heard of doing it, instead of you looking on Google and like trying to figure out, what this is and is it doable and how, who's done it. It's hard to pull your friend group and be like, hey, who's done a HELOC? Because where are you going to ask them? On LinkedIn or like on Instagram? Maybe. I'm all for that, honestly. Please do. But this is a community of women who are doing these things, so you can always get that information. All right, cool. Well, I guess just to wrap up this amazing episode, thank you for sharing all of these numbers. What's just your favorite piece of advice for women who might be earlier in their financial journey?
Yeah, so I have two. First one's quick. Just get started. Again, I did not know what I was doing when I opened my first investment account. I just set up that automated $50 a month. I ended up closing, like transferring that money and like changing another account like years later once I understood more. But I have absolutely no regrets from starting earlier. So just get started. And then the second piece, like maybe more importantly, is educate yourself. So the Wealth Circle is an amazing foundation for personal finance. It completely changed my life, and was really just like the catalyst or the beginning for my continued personal finance journey. I have since read over 15 personal finance books, which shows you like what I like to do in my free time. I don't know.
Me too.
And I'm constantly researching just various topics like the PMI or the HELOC or how to do a backdoor Roth. There are so many great resources, free resources online. And you can, I'm like probably have my Vanguard people on speed dial because I'm calling them to ask about like, how can I do this or what are the tax implications? And then the final thing is if there are things that feel overly complex, don't be afraid to hire someone. So for me, taxes are still so daunting. I don't understand them. I feel a little bit helpless. It's one of my goals to like have a better understanding, but we hired a CPA last year to file or this year, I should say, to file our income taxes for 2022. And it has just given me such a peace of mind. I feel like we optimized our return. Like we actually got returns, which I wasn't expecting. And so, yeah, I think that that's been super helpful to know, like, I know a lot, but I don't know everything. And it's okay to go for outside help when you're stuck.
I love that. I am the same. I know a lot. I don't know everything. I'm always going to be continuing my personal finance education, my investment education. I'm going to bring back the things to the Factora community that I learn. And it's such a great place to share resources and experiences because it's safe and judgment free. And people can literally DM each other and be like, hey, can we get on a call about that? I'd love to learn more. And the women there are so willing. But I want to be so clear that the Wealth Circle was built to be a foundation builder. Like you got to get started, you got to feel comfortable to even get going. But once you do, I think that there is so much additional confidence in yourself to keep learning because, I don't know anything that can be the most comprehensive, ultimate, you'll never need to like look online or figure anything out on your own again program for wealth building. Like there's no way. In fact, when people are done with the Wealth Circle, if they're really interested in paper assets, I'm like, you should take a stock market deep dive course because there's so much more to learn there. And the Wealth Circle isn't the place to do it, but it gets you kind of like the wheels turning and then you want to learn more and you feel like you can. So thank you for sharing that. I think that's great advice. And I just love having you a part of this community. I learn plenty from you, and I love how much you've inspired so many women in the community, not just with the PMI thing, but all that you come back and share. So thanks, Kelly.
Thanks, Allegra.
If you enjoyed this episode, come join us in a Wealth Circle. It's our live, online, 12-week course and community where we teach you how to create a personalized financial plan alongside hundreds of other women building wealth. It will change your life and your money for good. You can apply at factorawealth.com/wealth circle. That's factorawealth.com/wealth circle. See you in the next episode.